Hi, and welcome to Marketing Data Optimization Framework. How to provide an analytics and reporting system as your organization's nervous system. I'm Bryan Eisenberg, and I want to share with you today a framework for making sure that your reporting is correct throughout your whole organizational structure so that you're getting the best out of your digital marketing efforts. And I think this eventually will obviously go to all your marketing efforts. Here's the big challenge that we're seeing in the industry right now. In my last column, we talked about how 70% of CEOs have lost trust in marketers. The reason being is they're saying that they made conscious decision not to expect more from marketing than branding, look, feel, good ads, and promotions. CEOs feel that marketers live too much in the brand, creative, and social media bubble. Not that there's anything wrong with social media, but obviously CEOs are concerned that we're not business focused enough. And it's not hard to understand why. When you take a look at the typical executive organization chart and you look at the CEO, CFO, CIO, CMO, there are other C-suites, but basically what ends up happening is that one of these speaks a slightly different language than all the rest. One of them does not speak the language of financial reporting and accounting. And I think that is the big problem that the C-suite has to address. And this is something that we actually recommended to people to address in 2001 in our one of my early Clixie columns, as well as in our Marketer's Common Sense Guide to E-Metrics, when we said that every single web metric, every single E-metric needed to tie directly back to the financial statements of balance sheet, profit and loss, and cash flow, and net sales, and cost of goods sold, on and on and on. That's the way people manage businesses. And it didn't occur to me until I got a chance to see Eric Ashman, who's the former CFO at Huffington Post, explain and show something like this that talked about their ideal reporting structure and how they were able to manage through real-time stats and the marketing and sales team and the management reporting all integrated. And so when you start putting this all together and you start thinking, maybe there's a way to change the way we view our reporting so that way we can have a better framework for analytics. Now, my good friend Avinash Kaushik mentioned on his blog about one of the professors that he had in university who shared with him this concept of the 4 Ps and how you need to have a line of sight with all your metrics. And he recommended, taking a look at net income and how net income could be broken down into unit margins and unit volumes, and those can then be further broken down into price, cost, market share, and market size. And every single metric you had needed to fall into one of those categories. So I'm going to break up the net income part into your acquisition and retention metrics. I'm going to mostly focus on that during this video. But certainly, we can also talk about brand and where that fits. And obviously, that is part of your assets managed to be amortized over time. They're investments that you can be very clear on what they are. And then you can just figure out what the value that it amortizes over a length of time. But let's talk about these acquisition and retention metrics and look what's going on. Now, Avinash has a great framework that we've used at several companies on how to plan from their business objectives to identifying their goals, to identifying the KPIs, and identifying the segments that influence that. And you can read more about it on his website. But what's missing here is the line of sight back to the financial statements. And this is where I think what happens is that you break from having good analysis or even great analysis to having excellent reporting that delivers what the rest of the organization actually needs. So let's talk about how we'd actually accomplish that. So I want to imagine that you have your CMO and your VP of marketing, and you may have directors and associates beneath there. And at some point, you have your managers. They can be your social media manager, your SEO manager, PPC manager, email manager, affiliate manager, on and on. I'm going to focus today on the PPC manager just for clarity's sake. So I want you to imagine for each one of these, there's an input and an output that comes and flows throughout the organization that feeds it the metrics that it needs to drive things. So when we look at the PPC manager, we understand that the input to the PPC manager, what he has to put in his reporting documents, is that he has a budget that he gets to spend that gets assigned. And again, I think brand budget and acquisition and retention budget should fall differently and should be planned differently. And then you can also plan the costs that are associated to the PPC manager, staffing, external production, service tool, or any other kind of vendors. He then has a number of dials which help him generate his output. Those dials are the impressions that he sees, the click-throughs that his ads are getting, the visitors that actually make it to the site, the conversions and the acquisitions from those visitors, and of course the number of sales and the dollars per sale. That will then produce an output of the revenue generated and a certain number of KPIs such as impression or market share, the return of ad spend, all being able to be computed from those metrics belowhand, and your conversions per impression. This is the data that needs to flow back up to the VP of marketing and the rest of the organization. He may need other metrics to balance what he does and manage his campaigns and stuff like that. But from a reporting and a financial reporting perspective, this is absolutely critical to have that digital nervous system working properly. What then happens is all the data from the PPC manager and social media manager and all the other managers and directors flows up towards the VP of marketing, where they can now start aggregating it all, putting into net cost, lifetime value, and profits, and reporting that back to the C-suite so they can have the proper conversations with their counterparts in the C-suite. Now let's get back to this reporting and why it's so critical. We bring this back down to the PPC manager, and the other critical part to this is they see the trends, whether it's a daily, weekly, or monthly trend. It depends on how fast your organization can react to it. The faster, the better. Even hourly can have a huge impact in organizations like the Huffington Post. Is you report whether any of these key dials that are going to affect your output are up or down trending. If they're downtrending, like this one is in impressions, you need to have a game plan for what exactly happens when it goes down. Who does what? Where do you look? How do you improve on it? And then you can react to it. And you can do this for all of your metrics. If it goes up, what should you do? Should you invest more? Right? You can figure out all of these different things. For each one of those outcomes, you literally have the game plan. So let's say if impressions are down 18%, what exactly would you do? You don't want to wait for an analyst to find this out a month later or 2 weeks later or whatever it is. You want to be able to react now. So first you can check search trends, see if demand is down. You can check the impression share report. Our PPC budget being impacted by budget or by our quality score ranks. Have our competitors increase their budget, pushing us down so we're getting less impressions? Should we consider increasing our budget? Has there been a significant amount of change to activity in our account? Should we revert back to the old way we had the account? Again, these are just some of the questions. There could be several more that you can map out for each one of those key dials, for each one of your key executives throughout your organization. And now what you do is you can do web analytics and data reporting effectively, because what the goal of web analytics is to create a to-do list. Everything that comes out of whether numbers are up or down or even trending neutrally should generate what you should do if the number is up or down or trend negatively. And once everyone has a clear game plan and all those metrics are reported back, you now have a successful organization. The other key to this, to making it successful, is that now you can also allow your metrics to drive your structure, and your strategy, as opposed to and your strategy driving your structure, as opposed to the structure driving the strategy. What will happen very clearly is, if the PPC manager is responsible, let's say, for conversions, he has to have people on his team that can impact conversions. If not, he can't move that dial. And that's a critical part to making sure this is all correct. I'm hoping that in 2013, you can work on this analytics framework and rock it and make tons and tons of more money, and make your organization much more efficient and gain the trust of the CEO. Thank you very much.